Troy Fergueson. I'm a lieutenant with the Pasco Sheriff's Office.
And what's your role with Pasco Sheriff?
I oversee the School Resource Officer Program and School Crossing Guards and our Juvenile Diversion Program.
So the school resource officers, you're talking about the police or the sheriffs, I guess, that are in the schools.
Absolutely. We have approximately 35 or so school crossing guards deployed throughout our middle schools and high schools throughout the county. And of course, our Newport Richey partners and Dade City Police Department partners, they also have SROs in their schools as well within the municipalities.
So in the county, it's the sheriff's department. In the cities, it's those police departments.
Yes, sir. We have the county and the Zephyr Hills City Schools, and then Newport Richey has the Newport Richey Schools and Dade City alike as well. Yes.
So let me ask you, if there is an active shooter, what can people do to be prepared?
Well, fortunately, the District School Board of Pasco County has a really solid crisis management plan. In fact, that's what we're here doing today. We're exercising that crisis management plan. Our teachers are trained relentlessly to work with our law enforcement in schools and responding law enforcement to keep those kids safe and to mitigate as much potential for casualties if possible. But we definitely train and plan for that on an ongoing basis. And so I have kids myself, a son in school here in Pasco County, and I feel very comfortable having him in school just because of the ongoing training that we utilize with our crisis plan.
So for someone who hasn't gotten that training, so if there's a student who goes to a high school or middle school or whatever it is, and they haven't been trained, what can you tell them? What's something that they could do to protect themselves if that situation arises?
Pay close attention to what your teachers and SRO are going to tell you, your school administration, because these guys are going to take you under the wing and help keep you safe. Be quiet, listen, and in fact, the schools actually hold drills throughout the year to exercise this plan. So it won't be long for those new students who are just transferring to Pasco County schools are going to get to experience some of those drills for themselves.
Today, what will the law enforcement officers be learning? What are some of the things that they'll be taught in the field in case there's an active shooter?
Well, like anything else, practice, repetition. So this morning, we're working on just good old-fashioned building clearances and engaging threats using firearms within our school. And then this afternoon, we're actually going to do live simulation exercises where we'll have responding law enforcement respond to the call about an active shooter actually on a campus. And we'll engage the school's crisis plan, the school resource officer's role will be exercised, and responding law enforcement. Simulating patrol deputies will be coming to back that up. And so that will probably round out our afternoon.
You're talking about a crisis plan. Give us an example. What might happen during the crisis plan?
Well, the crisis plan, depending on the nature of the threat, is designed to either eliminate or stop access to the campus or movement throughout the campus. And without giving away trade secrets and exposing some of our folks to risk, basically it's something to keep our guys still quiet and safe from any threats that are around. And our ultimate goal is to get those kids safely through that event. And the crisis plan isn't just about active shooters and assailants and criminal activity. It also goes along with hurricanes, tornadoes, natural disasters, things that would require, that could bring harm to children or the school facility itself. And so some of it's precautionary, man-made disasters, accidents. So it's really an all-inclusive plan, if you will.
Would the children be safer in the schools if teachers had guns?
Well, that's probably a question that's going to be debated till the end of time. I have some personal feelings on the matter, but ultimately, our school resource officers are trained to handle those firearms. They use those firearms on a daily basis, and being ultimately familiar with that firearm and the workings of it, and I think they're probably the best suited to be armed in the schools. Although I have heard quite a bit of debate and conversation about arming teachers in different jurisdictions, I certainly think the best avenue, at least, is having that trained law enforcement officer in those schools, especially in the K-12 environment.
Some of the major school shooting incidents that we've heard of have involved where the shooter had access to a semi-automatic weapon of some sort. Should those be on the street? Should semi-automatic weapons be available to people?
Well, we definitely have a right to bear arms in the United States, and I'm not convinced that taking guns off the street is the answer to stop violence. I think responsible ownership and laws that are designed to keep people who shouldn't have firearms from getting them are very effective. It's not always the device itself that's the problem, but the person in control of the device. So I don't know that eliminating the semi-automatic firearms is really the answer for our society.
And finally, I want to ask you about something that's a little bit different than an active shooter in a school. This week it came out in the news that there's been some criticism of how the police responded to the active shooter situation at the Orlando Pulse. Based on the training that you're doing today, would you train your officers to respond in the manner that the police did in that Orlando situation, where it was several hours before they went into an active shooter?
I would probably be remiss to comment on the response of the law enforcement in Orlando because we haven't been made aware of any official debrief yet. But I can assure you that every law enforcement agency in the country probably is looking at that incident and will take away from it lessons learned, positive and negative, like we do from any critical incident. But without having been there and having access to the debrief, I would probably have to reserve comment on that until we have a little more information available.